Well, it's just not COVID anymore. Hi everyone, back here at Cobb and Douglas Public Health to speak to the director here, Dr. Janet Memark. And usually we've been talking these last several years about COVID-19, but now we have much more to talk about when it comes to public health issues facing our community. But since we're used to it, let's start with COVID.
We're very lucky. COVID right now is quiet right now. So we still continue to have some steady hospitalizations, but not a whole lot of extremely sick people. What we're looking out for right now is just the grandbabies of Omicron. And so one of them is BQ1 that is affecting other parts of the world right now and some in the Northeast. And so we're a little bit worried about that coming because, every winter we seem to have a surge. It's just a perfect milieu to have it happen. So we are seeing or we're watching that right now, and we hope we don't have a huge surge this year with that.
One of the things that I've noticed in the media a lot lately is the triple threat that public health officials say we're facing this fall into this winter. What is the triple threat and what are you seeing?
Yeah, so the triple threat is 3 viruses at once that we can get hit with and have significant surges and hospitalizations. And the 3 viruses we're concerned about, the first one we talked about, which is the COVID viruses. This is our 3rd year dealing with this, and we've had a surge every winter. There's nothing to think that we're not going to have one this year, right? So that is kind of the standing issue. The second is flu. We have had 2 quiet flu seasons because of all the mitigation that was in place, and every year they were worried as we opened up society more that we would have a flu season. We've gotten lucky the last 2 years. This year it's game over. We have a lot of flu out there. There are a lot of people that are getting flu. Right now it seems to be a lot of type A flu, but I am seeing just a ton of flu. Schools are having it, and it's just like, it feels like COVID BA4-5 when everybody you knew was coming down with it. We're seeing that right now. And so flu is a big issue. The third one is the respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV. Now, this is something that, by age 2, 90% of us would have had some exposure to it, and then you kind of keep getting exposed to it like all of our other viruses. Now, here's the problem is the last couple years, we have not had much immunity that has been built to RSV. Now, it has come back in a big way all over the United States, and we are actually experiencing that as well. So the problem here is there's no vaccine for it. The first time you get hit with it, usually under the age of 2, is usually the worst. Sometimes older folks can have a hard time with it as well. And so we are seeing a pretty good surge of RSV right now as well. And so this can really cause a lot of respiratory issues in young children. So it's something to look out for. You and I were just talking about, gosh, you don't know which one that you have. And so it's really important to kind of stay home when you're sick so you don't be passing it around to everybody, but we do have a lot of circulation. Good news? We got vaccines for 2 of those viruses. So if you can offer up yourself some protection from at least 2 viruses, it's not going to be 100%, we know that, but definitely gives you a lot of protection against death and hospitalizations for COVID and for flu. Now, COVID has a new vaccine that's out, and people are very confused. This is the bivalent vaccine. If you did not get your booster after August 31st, so it has to be after August 31st, you did not get the new bivalent booster. Bivalent, bi means 2, so you had original COVID protection as well as the new BA4 and BA5, some Omicron protection as well. So it's going to give you a little bit more protection than our previous shots. I would think of it kind of like the flu shot, where you get yourself a booster. Speaking of which, there's a flu shot too. Anybody 6 months and over can get the flu shot as well. And so very, very protective against hospitalization and death.
So as we speak here, actually just down the road at Department of Transportation, the county is giving flu shots to our employees. But you mentioned earlier type A flu. So what does that mean? Type A versus what, and what is worse?
It's not really a kind of a worse type of thing. So the flu is something that they have different types, and they have to make these decisions kind of early by looking at different areas around the world that will probably get flu first, like Southern Hemisphere and stuff. And so what they do is when they make the vaccines, which are usually quadrivalent, so 4, they have 4 different strains of flu that are covered for there. There's usually an A, B, there's some sort of H3. So there's whatever is the flavor of the year, they try to do as much coverage as they can. So usually type A is the first one that hits, and then we get hit with B later in the season. In the last couple years, if we saw any, we saw some of B, but we didn't see much A, the big surge of A. So this year though, it is more traditional. We got a big surge of A right now, and then I guess we may have some B next, but that's what it means. So the vaccine does have coverage for type A and type B, and so it's important to go ahead and get that vaccine.
All right, so I want to go back to the COVID bivalent, because I'm confused as well. So I'm due for my second booster. So when I go in, what should I be asking?
Now you won't have your second booster available to you anymore. Actually, that one is done. So because you have had your shots and one booster, your next booster will be the bivalent booster. Okay, so that's a new booster. Now, what if you only got one shot? Let's say you only got one of your primary series, you will not be eligible for that booster yet. You got to get your second one, and then you'll get the booster. You think you can get it like a couple months later after that. If let's say you got lucky, like some of my friends that got 5 shots already, and you said, oh, I've had 2 regular shots and 3 boosters. I don't need any more shots, right? Well, you haven't gotten the new shot. So you actually, even though you got it, you're eligible for the new bivalent booster 2 months afterwards. So anything after August 31st, new booster, new bivalent.
So one question that seems to be causing confusion is, so if I go in and get this bivalent booster, or if I go in and get a flu vaccine, is it going to cost me money?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So it shouldn't cost you money. If you have insurance, it should be covered on your preventative plans. And you may actually get some money if you go to Publix or something and they give you a gift card. And if you come here, if you have insurance, of course, we'll take your insurance and whatever gets paid for by insurance, great. But let's say you can't pay for it. We have a sliding scale, and it slides down to 0. So if you can't pay, you will not be refused a shot. So you can come here for sure to any of our health department sites and get a free bivalent booster.
And so I've got a kid or a couple kids in school. All this stuff is bubbling around at once. As a parent, what should I be doing?
So first thing, my daughter had a great story, a friend who has to do this like state track championship, right? And she was worried, I don't want to get the flu. And so my daughter said, did you get your flu shot? So that's one step, right? So it's not 100%, but at least you have some protection. So if you're eligible for any boosters or vaccines, go ahead and get those, very important. The other thing is, if you're sick, don't go to school. Don't go to areas. People are picking up stuff at parties and at school, and it's just where people are congregating. So just be careful. If you have respiratory issues or you have kind of some frail health, I would just kind of think twice if you're going to go to like very crowded places where a lot of viruses can be floating around. If you have to go, maybe wear your mask, but lots of hand washing and cleaning things. Then we're back to that. Our traditional things that we did, but please. We have the vaccines, and the vaccines are very helpful. And I have to tell you, I was a little bit worried when I got my my booster because I got a little sick from the other ones. Actually did really well on this one. I was fatigued the next day, but I did okay. It wasn't as bad as the other one, so I was very happy about that.
So I told you I'm due for my second booster, and the reason I haven't gotten it is because the booster I got, it laid me out for 24 hours. So this one may not be as bad?
It may not be. Now it could be if you're just one of those special people, but it may not be. Mine wasn't. I was anticipating it wasn't as bad.
So you and I have done a lot of these videos over now the past, 2 or 3 years. And a lot of times we head into winter, and I could tell you're really pessimistic about what we are facing as a community and you as a public health official. But this time, even though we're facing this triple threat, it doesn't seem, your demeanor doesn't seem to be quite as dire.
I think we're tired. No, I think that even though we have a triple threat ahead of us, one of those things, COVID, we've had a lot of immunity to, right? Through vaccines, and a lot of people got infected this last time. So I'm hoping that we have some immunity. This is not brand new. You remember the first time we went through this, it was very scary. People were on ventilators, they could not keep them alive. That was a very scary time. If you think about that, 3 years later, it's a lot better than it was. We know a lot of people that are they're getting sick. You know, I don't want to get flu-like sick, right? But they're recovering. And we have a vaccine. We got a vaccine, and flu too, you got a vaccine. But also, if you're feeling sick, it's important to go get tested, right? The reason why is not only do we have some vaccines available for 2, if you do get sick, 2 of those viruses, the flu virus and COVID, have some treatment available as well. So it's important, if you can go within a few days of getting the flu, you can get Tamiflu, and then it can help to shorten the duration and the severity of symptoms. So it is important to try to get in and get those things. So I feel a little bit better because at least we have some immunity. We're not going in cold turkey to this one.